information around the upcoming release of Baldur's Gate 3 has been limited, to say the least. One thing we know for sure, though, is that it will be based on the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition rule set. So whether you have played older editions of D&D or you've never played any tabletop role-playing games, and whether you plan to play Baldur's Gate 3 or you're gearing up for a tabletop campaign, this series will give you the basics you need to know to build your first character, and we're starting with races. This video will focus only on the races and sub-races available in the core player handbook, as I expect all of these options to be available in Baldur's Gate 3. Each race in Dungeons & Dragons has its own rich history and lore, as well as specific traits that set it apart mechanically from other races. Let's quickly run through what some of those traits are. Ability score increase. Every race will increase one or more of a character's ability scores. Ability scores are strength, which measure your natural athleticism and bodily power, dexterity, which determines your physical agility, reflex, balance, and poise, constitution, which is a measure of health, stamina, and vital force, and is important for determining your hit points. Intelligence governs your mental acuity, information recall, and analytical skill. Wisdom impacts your awareness, intuition, and insight. And charisma, which measures your confidence, eloquence, and leadership. Each race also has a different life expectancy and age in which they reach adulthood. There's alignment. Alignment is the system in Dungeons & Dragons that measures your character's morality. Are they good, evil, neutral? And it describes their view on society and order. Are they lawful, chaotic, or neutral? 5th edition does not restrict your alignment based on race or class as in previous editions. That said, most races tend towards certain alignments. So if you choose an alignment different from that typical of your race or class, you would probably want your backstory to explain a bit why you have that difference. There's character size. Size determines how much space you control and the amount of space your character needs in order to be effective in combat. It can also impact your ability to wield certain weapons. For example, small races like Gnomes and Halflings have difficulty using heavier weapons. Speed. Speed determines how much movement your character has on their turn during combat, as well as the rate at which they travel when adventuring. Language. Different races know different languages. And last, sub-races. Sub-races will have the same traits as the parent race, plus some additional bonuses that we'll get into. Also in 5th edition, the races are divided into two broad categories, common and uncommon. Common races are, well, common. They make up the majority of the population throughout the D&D universe. Uncommon races, however, don't exist in every world of D&D and are less widespread than the common races. In cosmopolitan areas, most people are used to seeing even the most exotic of races. But if you're traveling out in small villages and countryside, common folks may react differently to you if you're playing a Dragonborn or a Tiefling. So the first of the common races that we'll talk about is the Dwarves. Dwarves are typically known as great warriors, miners, and for their craftsmanship with both metal and stonework. Dwarves are mostly lawful, with a firm belief in a well-ordered society and a tendency towards good. Dwarven kingdoms are made up of clans. A dwarf greatly cherishes the tradition and the identity of that clan. They mature at the same rate as humans. However, dwarves are considered young until around age 50 and have an average lifespan of 350 years. Their size is medium. They range between 4 and 5 feet tall and on average about 150 pounds. They have a speed of 25, which for dwarves is not impacted by the use of heavy armor. They speak common and dwarven. They have dark vision and receive a +2 to constitution. Their racial abilities include advantage on saving throws against poison, resistance to poison damage, and they gain a bonus to history checks related to stonework. Subraces of dwarf include the hill dwarf and the mountain dwarves. Hill dwarves receive a +1 to wisdom and increased hit points, while mountain dwarves receive a +2 to strength, and they gain proficiency in light and medium armor. Elves. Elves are a magical people, well known for their otherworldly grace. They tend to live in places of ethereal beauty, in the midst of ancient forests, or in a silvery spire. Elves have a love for nature and magic, art and artistry, music and poetry, and the good things of the world. Elves reach physical maturity around the same age as humans. However, the elven understanding of adulthood goes beyond physical growth and also includes a worldly experience. Elves claim adulthood and an adult name around the age of 100. They can live up to 750 years old. They value freedom, variety, and self-expression, and therefore mostly lean toward chaos. With the exception of dark elves, most are more often than not good. Elves have a size of medium. They're typically slender with a height of 5 to 6 feet tall and a speed of 30 feet. They speak Common and Elvish. They have dark vision and receive a +2 to dexterity. Racial abilities for the elf include proficiency in perception. They gain advantage on saving throws against charm effects, and they cannot be put to sleep by magic. They also don't need to sleep and instead only require 4 hours of deep meditation known as trance. Subraces include the High Elf, Wood Elf, and Dark Elf. High Elves receive a +1 to intelligence. They gain elf weapon training, which grants them proficiency with the longsword, short bow, and longbow. They learn a wizard cantrip and an extra language of the player's choice. Wood Elves receive a +1 to wisdom, and they also receive elf weapon training, which grants them proficiency with the longsword, short bow, and longbow. They gain increased movement speed up to 35 feet, and they gain Mask of the Wild, which allows them to attempt to hide even when only lightly obscured. And lastly, the Dark Elf. Dark Elves receive a +1 to charisma, and they gain superior dark vision, allowing them to see up to 120 feet in the dark. They gain Drow Magic, which grants them the Dancing Lights cantrip, and once per long rest, the ability to cast Fairy Fire at 3rd level and Darkness at 5th level. Dark Elves also receive Drow weapon training, which grants them proficiency with the rapier, the short sword, and the hand crossbow. Unfortunately, they also have sunlight sensitivity, which gives them disadvantage on attack and wisdom rolls when in direct sunlight. Halfling. Halflings value the comforts of home, peace, and a good meal. They're kind and curious, and they cherish their family and friends. They typically live in small, peaceful communities with large farms and groves. However, some halfling communities are known for traveling from place to place by wagon or boat. They reach adulthood at age 20 and have a lifespan of around 250 years. Most halflings are lawful good. As a rule, they're good-hearted and kind, typically very orderly and traditional, and lean heavily on the support of their community and the comfort of their old ways. They have a size of small, on average are around just 3 feet tall and weigh 40 pounds. Halflings speak Common and Halfling, and they receive a +2 to dexterity. Halflings receive the racial ability Luck, which allows them to re-roll a critical failure and must keep the new result. They're nimble, and therefore they may move through the space of other creatures one size larger. Subraces of the Halfling include the Lightfoot Halfling and the Stout Halfling. Lightfoot Halfling receives a +1 to Charisma and gains the ability to attempt to hide when obscured by a creature one size larger. Stout Halflings gain a +1 to Constitution. They're resistant to poison and gain advantage on saving throws against poison. Human. Humans, with their penchant for conquest and migration, are the most adaptable and ambitious people among the common races, and as such, they have wide varieties of tastes, morals, and customs. They're known for building great cities and kingdoms to last the ages. They have no particular alignment. The best and the worst are among humans. Humans reach adulthood in their late teens and live less than a century. They have a size of medium, ranging from barely 5 feet to well over 6 feet tall, with a speed of 30 feet. They speak Common and one extra language of the player's choice. Humans receive a +1 to all ability scores. There is also a variant rule which allows a player to instead increase 2 scores by 1 and gain a feat as well as proficiency in one skill of their choice. Up next is the uncommon races. The first of the uncommon races is Dragonborn. Dragonborn are shaped by draconic gods, or the dragons themselves. Dragonborn originally hatched from dragon eggs as a unique race, combining the best attributes of dragons and humanoids. They live in clans, and to any Dragonborn, the clan is more important than life itself. They walk hours after hatching. They attain size and development of a 10-year-old human by the age of 3. They reach adulthood at 15 and live to approximately 80 years. Their alignment tends toward extremes. Most are good, but those who side with Tiamat are terrible villains. They have a size of medium and usually are over 6 feet tall and average close to 250 pounds with a speed of 30 feet. Dragonborn languages include Common and Draconic, and they receive a +2 to Strength and a +1 to Charisma. When you create a Dragonborn, you choose a Draconic ancestry. You then gain a breath weapon and damage resistance based on the element associated to that ancestry. Gnome. Gnomes take delight in life, enjoying every moment of invention, exploration, investigation, creation, and play. They usually live in secluded burrows in the woods, which they go to great lengths to conceal, often with the use of illusionary magic. They mature at the same rate as humans, but are expected to settle down into adult life by around age 40, and they can live to almost 500 years old. Gnomes are most often good, with some tending toward lawful and others towards chaos. They have a size of small. They're between 3 and 4 feet tall and average about 40 pounds with a speed of 25 feet. Gnomes speak Gnomish and Common. They have dark vision and receive a +2 to intelligence. Their racial abilities include Gnome Cunning, which grants them advantage on all intelligence, wisdom, and charisma throws against magic. Subraces of Gnome include the Forest Gnome and the Rock Gnome. Forest Gnomes get a +1 to dexterity, and they gain the Minor Illusion cantrip and an ability to use sound and gesture to communicate with small animals. Rock Gnomes gain a +1 to Constitution. They also get the Artificer's Lore ability, which grants them a bonus to history checks related to magic items, alchemical objects, and technological devices. They also get an ability called Tinkerer, which gains them proficiency in the artisan's tools, and it allows them to spend 1 hour and 10 gold pieces and materials to build a small device that can be a clockwork toy, a fire starter, or a music box, and they can have up to 3 of these devices at a time. Half-elf. Half-elves are of 2 worlds, but belonging to neither. Half-elves combine the best qualities of their elf and human parents. They do not have lands of their own, often choosing a life of solitude or joining with other misfits and outcasts in the adventuring life. They mature at the same rate as humans, however, they live much longer, often exceeding 180 years. Like their elven heritage, they tend toward chaos, valuing self-expression and personal freedom, often resenting rules. Their size is medium, ranging from 5 to 6 feet with a speed of 30 feet. Their languages include Common, Elvish, and 1 extra language of the player's choice. They have dark vision, and they receive +2 to Charisma and +1 to 2 additional scores of the player's choice. For their racial abilities, they gain advantage on saving throws against charm status, and they can't be put to sleep by magic. They also gain proficiency in 2 skills of the player's choice. Half-orcs. Half-orcs are not evil by nature, but it does lurk within them, and they must choose to embrace it or rebel against it. They feel emotion powerfully. Rage makes their bodies burn, and sadness saps their strength. The simple bodily joys, such as feasting and drinking, fill their hearts with joy. They reach adulthood at age 14 and rarely live past 75 years. They do inherit a tendency toward chaos, and those raised among orcs are usually evil. Their size is medium, ranging from 5 to well over 6 feet tall with a speed of 30 feet. Languages are Orc and Common. They have dark vision and receive a +2 to Strength and a +1 to Constitution. Their racial abilities include proficiency in Intimidation. Once per long rest, when dropped to 0 hit points, instead they are dropped to 1 hit point, and they gain Savage Attack, which grants them additional damage on critical hits with melee weapons. Tiefling. Tieflings are the result of a human bloodline that struck a pact generations ago, which infused the essence of the Lord of the Nine Hells, Asmodeus, into their bloodline. They lack homelands, and therefore all tieflings quickly learn that they must make their own way in the world. They mature at the same rate as humans, but live slightly longer. They do not have an innate tendency toward evil, but many do end up there, and as they are independent by nature, usually lean toward a chaotic alignment. They have a size of medium, similar to that of humans, with a speed of 30 feet. Languages are common and infernal. They have dark vision. They gain a +1 to intelligence and a +2 to charisma. Racial abilities include resistance to fire damage, Infernal Legacy, which grants the cantrip Thaumaturgy, and once per long rest, after 3rd level, the ability to cast Hellish Rebuke, and after 5th level, they can cast Darkness. And those are all the races that you'll find in the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition player handbook. If you found this video useful, please hit the like button and subscribe for more guide videos that will prepare you for Baldur's Gate 3.